Vulnerability is spiritual heroism on waking paralyzed, the cave that is really a desert, and the treasure that was never meant to be conquered. I woke up paralyzed and couldn't tell you why. My mind said rest. My body said something was in the way. And underneath both of them, the same old voice was running its same old math. That stillness has to be earned, that I only carry value when I am moving, producing, taking ground. I know that isn't true. I've known it for a long time. Knowing it and waking up free of it are two different things. The waiting is a trigger, not a metaphor, a mechanism. It reaches back and pulls on three different threads at once. And in the dark, you can't always tell which one has your arm. Confrontation, confirmation, condemnation. One is God meeting you honestly. One is the enemy trying to convince you that stillness is proof you've been forgotten. They can feel identical for the first several seconds. The only way through is to stay long enough to find out which one you're actually holding. What I found underneath the paralysis was a fear I hadn't fully named before: double abandonment. Not just the ordinary ache of waiting on a promise. A second layer stacked on top of it, the fear that even the resting season itself is a kind of forsaking, that if the striving stops, so does the provision. Proverbs 16:3 says otherwise. Commit your work to the Lord, and he establishes the plans. Not you, not you're watching the door, not you're managing the outcome from the outside. The word underneath commit means to roll something over, to hand off the weight. Establishment was never supposed to be my job. This is the cave I've been afraid to enter. Except it isn't a cave in the way I was taught to think about caves. Campbell's hero walks in alone and earns the treasure through nerve and self-reliance. Conquest is the price of the prize. But what I was shown was a desert, not a battlefield. Healing in the desert. And a desert doesn't respond to conquest. You don't fight a desert into giving something up. You survive it by being carried through it. The treasure was never won by heroism. It was already placed there, waiting to be received through surrender, not conquest. Self-destruction and self-loathing do real harm to purpose. That's not a confession I write easily, but it's true. And it takes time to heal through. Not a weekend, not a single breakthrough morning, but a season. What holds, while that's true, is simple, and I keep having to relearn it. My dad is really good, and he knows what I need before I've found the words for it. And every time he gives a miracle, he doesn't give it to the exact size of the need. He gives it as overabundance, which means the actual work in a resting season isn't producing, it's making space. Clearing enough room in myself that when the abundance comes, there's somewhere for it to land. There is a waiting season where resting is necessary before the birthing season of abundance. Birthing is the better word for it. Abundance can sound like something you simply receive, but birthing is labor, and the waiting is part of that labor, not a delay before it starts. And here is the piece I keep having to relearn. The mind in the flesh can move through real depression and real heaviness at the very same time the spirit is lifted by his holiness. Those two reports don't have to agree. The body can feel paralyzed and low, while the spirit underneath it is already settled, already established, already carrying what the flesh hasn't caught up to feeling yet. And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Galatians 6:9. That's the actual warning inside a resting season, not that the reaping won't come, but that weariness will try to convince you it isn't. Growing weary and losing heart are the two ways the waiting tries to win. Staying, even heavy, even paralyzed some mornings, is what it means to not lose heart. Here is where the reframe finally landed, the one that answers both the cave and the abandonment at once. Vulnerability is a life-saving act of spiritual heroism. Campbell's hero earns the cave through self-reliance. This flips the currency entirely. The heroic act isn't conquering the wound alone, it's exposing it, letting someone else see it instead of managing it in isolation. That's surrender wearing the clothing of strength, not strength replacing surrender. And it answers the fear directly. Abandonment says, if I show this, I'll be left. Vulnerability, as spiritual heroism says, the showing itself is the thing that saves my life, the exact opposite of what the fear predicted. Regulating what's happening inside me, staying with it, instead of running from it or performing past it, isn't a lesser task than the spiritual one. It is the spiritual one. Regulating emotions is worship to God, not a coping mechanism bolted onto faith, the worship itself. Serve Him and worship Him in equal parts. That's the whole difference between religion and relationship. Religion manages the outside, relationship stays in the room for the inside. I feel like I can breathe. It appears a rock has been moved and a void has been filled. There is a path for progress now. There is a lesson learned and a moment named. I will go fill the car with gas and look for God in the moment. Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. Proverbs 16:3. I know who I am His kingdom scribe. Matthew 1:52 p.m. How's the flow?